Today, we are going to go over how to develop our off-grid property with little to no money. If you haven't already seen our video about how to get onto land with little to no money, then you're going to want to check that out first. But if you're ready to find out how to develop your off-grid property with little to no money, then you're in the right place. How are we going to build a house if we have very little to no money? Well, when I started off-grid at my place, I started living in my car. It was the car that I drove to town with to get supplies, and it was the car that I slept in at night. And as I built my house over time, that car was my home. Now you can get an RV, a bus, a lot of things can be found for free in places. They may not be running, you have to get them towed, and you can have yourself a little instant dwelling. And then when it comes to building, you can find ways to build more naturally. In lots of locations where the land isn't brand new lava, you have clay, and you can build out of a material called cob, which is a mixture of sand, straw, and clay, and it's free. It takes your time, but you can build a complete house for as little as $500 using cob. You could also do cordwood. Cordwood is pretty much just stacking up wood and putting mortar in between, like you'd stack rocks and make a wall, but instead you're using firewood rounds, and you can build a home out of cordwood if you have a lot of trees, a lot of lumber available to you. You know, it's pretty much the price of the chainsaw and the concrete, as well as some windows that you might be able to find recycled from a reuse center. And I've even seen places built completely out of pallets, which are readily available and free in most places. So a lot of free options in order for you to build. You just got to get creative, but mostly you need the time in order to do it. Next thing you're going to need on your property is water and power. When you decide to get your homestead, you should think about water. Maybe moving to a place that has a lot of rainfall, or a creek running through it, or possibly a shallow groundwater where a well can be dug by hand. But find a way to get free water. Where I live, I get 150 inches of rain every year, and I just need a small water tank in order to catch enough for me. You can use trash cans, buckets, the Intex pools that kids use that are $150 at Walmart, that hold up to 3,000 to 4,000 gallons of water. I have this water tank behind me that cost me about $3,000 or $4,000 when I installed it. It's a 3,000 gallon tank, and it holds more than enough water for my family's needs. Never has it run dry. Power is not as easy. When I first moved onto this homestead here, I was using battery powered tools to build my home. Every night I'd run into Hilo and I would just plug in somewhere and charge my tools up. There used to be a dollar theater in town, so I'd watch a movie, charge my tools in the back of the theater where the plug was, and there you have it. I had power. Since then, I've learned better ways to do it. A way that I wish I knew was simply just getting an inverter for your car. A 1,000-watt inverter can run almost anything in a house. You can run a fridge off a 1,000-watt inverter. You can run most power tools. You can use your car to do it. Your car, what most people don't know, is a really expensive generator. And all you have to do is just run it for a couple hours to be able to charge everything you need. You could even use it to charge some batteries, which then can give you lingering power later on. Inverter only costs maybe $150, $200 for a 1,000-watt inverter, and you have power instantly for your homestead. Another great way to get power, sometimes you could ask your neighbor if you could just run a cord in exchange for paying for a little bit of the power. Or, you save up a couple bucks, you get yourself a generator, maybe eventually some solar panels, some batteries, and you develop yourself a real power system. But those methods cost money. So surely they're going to happen down the line, right? So for most of us who are going off grid, we are thinking about providing food for ourselves. So how do we find free food, low cost food? How do we develop that if we don't have much money? Now, there are ways for you to do that. You do not have to put a lot of money into developing a food garden. I've made a few videos on the subject that you can check out up here that will tell you how to develop a food forest of your own. I've grown a lot of my plants from seed. I've grafted them. I've traded for plants with other people. I've shoveled loads and loads of horse manure and soil that I've just found places. I've been able to develop food system here for very little money. You could even use EBT to buy fruit trees and seeds and even fertilizer for your garden. So there really is no excuse for you to be able to start a garden with very little money. All right, now last thing when you're developing your off-grid homestead is your waste disposal. You can see the cost of a septic system, sometimes running upwards of $10,000 to install, and you're like, how am I going to actually dispose of my waste? You got to get creative once again. There's gray water, which is actually legal in a lot of places, where you send your bathroom water, your shower water, anything but your kitchen sink water and your toilet water can go out into your landscape and feed your food forest. If you live in a dry climate, it's a great way to recycle water so that you're making your water go much further than it ordinarily would. Another way to dispose of waste is something called youʻre. It is a way to compost your personal waste and turn it into a resource for your garden. I've made a few videos on youʻre that you can check out up here. I've gone over everything you need to know about how to develop a youʻre system and what it's like when it actually composts down and you put it out in the garden. The last thing you can do for getting rid of your waste is something called a biogas digester. They have some commercially available units where it's kind of a tank where your waste goes into, but it converts that waste into fuel. And that fuel can be used to use for cooking or heating water or whatnot. But and then you also have a way to break down some of your waste. I saw a commercial unit running for about $1,000 to $1,500, and right there you have a toilet and you have a stove that uses the gas to cook food, and a toilet that runs straight to the biogas system, all for $1,000 to $1,500, which is a pretty awesome deal if you think about it. Well, that's it, everybody. I'm Pow. I just gave you everything I know about how to develop your property for very little money. Now, I know that it's hard out there. Things are really expensive these days. You have to get creative. But it is possible to go off grid with little to no money. It really depends on where. So if you are on a limited budget, think about going someplace that's cheap, maybe forgotten about by most of other people, and you'll find something that could be almost free. And you can live your dream. Free from the rat race, free from the powers that be telling you what to do, and free to live your life. So take that step, everybody. Go off grid. There's no excuses. All right, till next time, everybody. Ahui ho. Thanks for joining me.